So we're back to continue the conversation with our amazing guest. As you may have noticed, we've been interviewing experts and investors and creators and builders in the DeFi world. We've been recording those conversations and bringing them to you. Hope you enjoy the rest of this conversation. If you haven't caught the earlier part, make sure you check it out on YouTube. Each conversation has multiple parts, so do check them all out. And with that said, enjoy. So someone's watching this, and then maybe you're poking around on Pendle. I think it's a really actually simple user experience, but maybe you're reading some white paper and you're kind of poking around. Let's say someone's got, it doesn't even matter how much you have, but 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, $1 million. I saw some wallets with well over $1 million on some fixed yield products there, and I was kind of going through some stuff there. But anyway, you said they have two paths. Let's really simplify it to someone who's just wants to play with this. And I always tell people, I'm like, the more you play with this stuff, even if you're a brand new investor, take $10 and just play with it, because by interacting with these protocols and the smart contracts and figuring it out, you learn a shit ton. So even if you don't have enough capital to make 14% worth your while right now, take $10 and I highly recommend playing with a protocol. By the way, pro tip, if it's a newer protocol or you're unsure of it, just have another wallet and just have kind of a junk wallet if you're hooking up to some smart contracts. Pendle is far from that, but never trust a YouTuber or someone. Just don't trust anyone. Just do your own research on this thing. I don't even like leaving links in the description. I say go on DeFi Llama or go somewhere and use, or go on your official Twitter and use the link there. So we may or may not have the link below because I don't want to get people used to that. Where would people sort of start? And we're kind of going to repeat the start of this interview, but I'm hoping that they got a little more information by listening to you. The 2-minute crash course tutorial for them to get into something, what would you recommend they get into? Like what kind of, like, where would they just start?
Sure. To be very honest, if you're listening to this as a complete beginner, go to app.pendle.finance. On the top bar, there's an education page. Click on it. There's a Pendle Academy breakdown, and that's where you should start. Though if you do really want to play, two paths you can take.
Sweet.
One, yield of an asset, let's say Ethena, since they're very popular. You say the yield of Ethena is gonna be very high over the next couple of weeks, or until the maturity of one of the assets. You buy YT. Basically, you speculate on the yield. Now you see what is offering on Pendle. Let's say on Pendle, the YT is trading at, in yield terms, 7%, and you think that Ethena is going to offer 14%. Your actual profit at the end will be 2x, because 14 divided by 7 is 2. So that's kind of roughly it. It's pretty simple. What do you think the yield is going to be? What the yields being offering? Now, an even simpler one will be PT. And if you just want fixed yield, if you think your bank fixed deposit is too low for your appetite, and you want a little bit more fixed yield in crypto, that crypto can offer, a lot more. And then you can just buy. Yeah, exactly. You can just buy PT. Pretty simple.
Yep.
And you get a fixed yield at maturity, so it should be higher than your fixed deposit, a 3-month fixed deposit from your bank. Now, there's actually a third path. Now, what that is, so PT and YT is enabled by trading from a liquidity pool, just like Uniswap and most other DEXs. Pendle is sort of like a DEX because we need liquidity for these assets to be able to be traded. Now, how exactly the liquidity pool works is kind of hard to explain, but all you need to know that there is no IL as long as you hold to maturity, and you're basically principally protected. So like if you put $10 in at maturity, you're guaranteed $10 out at least, plus some yields. And you can go to the pools page on Pendle and check out the yields that's being offered there, and just park your money and farm liquidity. That's the simplest path, I would say, for people who don't really know what YT and PT is, but they know what a liquidity pool is, and they just don't want impermanent loss, and they just slap their funds in and provide liquidity for others to trade PT and YT. So that's the most straightforward way.
Yeah. And read the white paper. Like, I remember the first time I found Pendle, I read it once and I was like, I think I get it, but I don't. I think it took me 3 reads, and I was like, okay. Some things are complex. People don't understand how complex it is to even explain the mechanics behind a liquidity pool. And like, if you actually get into it, it's actually very complex. On the surface, the actual user doesn't see a lot of that, but it's some freaking complex math. What are because I know people are thinking, and I always ask this too, like, what's the risk here? So let's say it's like, hey, I got $1 million. I really like this idea. fixed yield can't go wrong, and I know there's deposits of well over the million. What's the risk? I think everyone in crypto has probably been burned at some point. I think it's
Yep.
just you have to be burned a couple times, but trust diminishes over a while. You guys have been in business for quite a while. You got massive TVL. What is the risk if someone deposits 50 grand with you?
Sure. So, we again, smart contract risks will be the biggest risk. But on Pendle, I would say smart contract risk would be the only risk for most assets. Now, remember, we are a DEX sort of that trades principal token and yield token. And we are built on top of yield bearing assets, where assets that generate yield, for example. So let's take Aave, for example. Well, Aave takes USDC, then deposit USDC to Aave, you get Aave USDC. You take that Aave USDC, deposit into Pendle, you can do whatever you want, or you can buy PT or YT. Now, the smart contract risk layer compounds every time someone builds on top of something. So on Aave's side, there's just 3 layers: USDC, Aave, and Pendle.
Mm-hmm.
There are some yield bearing assets that are not that simple. They are built
Mm,
on top of many layers of
got
smart
it.
contract below that, and any one of them fails, everything on top of that will also bear the same risk.
Have you
I
guys
would say
had that
that's
happen on Pendle?
Oh, for sure,
Have-
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
We are at the end of the day, we are a neutral platform that enables trading of PT and YT, where we
Yep.
take in pretty much any yield bearing asset. Of course, we try to avoid taking scams.
Yeah. Risky, whatever. Yep.
But at the end of the day, if we're trying to aim to be like a permissionless platform where we support anything that generates yield, think
Yep.
of it as like the NYSE of anything that generates yield.
Yep.
We're bound to get a couple of
Yep.
assets that kind of fails before it reaches maturity. So yeah,
Yep.
I think it's normal.
So,
But these thankfully have been small assets.
and usually they are. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
again, that's why I'm just like, I know there's a lot of you, and I love it. Like the crypto, I really think education and YouTube and social media plays such a big role in the awareness. But the downside is, I mean, no, whatever. I'm not going to talk about it, but I had many times something will reach out to me, say, "Hey, we'll pay you this much to promote this thing," and I was shocked when we started getting that, and then I'm just like, "Oh, that's how that space works." Like I don't even know how you would stay in business for very long if you did that once or twice and you f people over twice. Like I don't know why anyone would listen to you a third time,
Yeah.
but I think it's just really important to get educated, and it sounds like you guys have a cool educational platform on Pendle, which I would highly recommend checking out. I haven't checked it out myself, but I'm sure it's amazing. Um, because even if Lucas or someone is like, dude, this thing is awesome, just learn to do your own research on it, so you're not getting into things that an extra 5 6 to 100% APY is not worth it if you lose 100% of your funds. It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It's better to make 0% and not lose your money, and I think people forget that very, very quickly in this space.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like quick highlight for education platform. There are two sort of like, if you click education page, there's a lot of education stuff that we have. But there are two main ones: the docs and the academy. The docs run through how the protocol works and the protocol mechanics. So if you're
Yep.
interested in the nerdy stuff, go to the docs. And the academy just run through how you can use the protocol. If you want
Yep.
fixed yield, you go PT. If you want speculative yield, you go YT, and what it means
I'm so
to use
happy
the
you do
protocol.
that
So that's
because
kind of the academy.
a lot of protocols aren't doing that, which I find amazing. I'm like,
Yeah, we just
if I would,
find, yeah,
yeah,
it's mostly the mechanics of the protocol tend to be quite useless for most people. You don't have to know how
totally
Uniswap LP works, so you don't have to check out the docs. For example, for us, all you need to know is like, you don't need to know how the whole Pendle system works. All you
agreed.
need to know is what you can do with the protocol, and that's kind of what we
Agreed.
try to tell people, with of course some risk disclosures within as we go along the education platform. But yeah, we also have the in-app learn, where you can just learn straight up in the app itself. And I find all of those really simple. It takes like less than half an hour to master the whole Pendle. So yeah, do check it out.
Let's go, Dan. I got two more things for you. One, what's the future of Pendle? You kind of, I guess, kind of talked about it a little bit with these funds and trying to get some stuff off chain. But anything in the pipeline that you can talk about over the next few weeks, months, year,
Oh, sure.
2025
Um,
roadmap? What's going on there?
yep. We are launching a second protocol called Boros. It's basically interest rate swaps ported into crypto, and we're gonna support funding rates, which is the yield that has the highest footprint in crypto. Just think of it this way: BTC and ETH funding rate combined is higher than the entire TVL of DeFi. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, that's quite a lot to explore there.
Okay.
Looking to launch it in the next couple of months. That's the first, and second, to bring Pendle PTs, the fixed yield portion, um, everywhere. So we currently exist in EVM chains, which are mostly Ethereum stuff, and we're trying to bring it everywhere so we can trade it on
Sweet.
Solana, Ton, or even off chains. It's like if you're a Saudi fund, for example, looking to get better fixed yields, you can come to Pendle, and we should be able to offer that. Though the legal work for this is going to take forever,
Sure.
but we are making quite a lot of progress in just trying to get crypto yields outside, because long term vision wise, this is definitely the way to go. Since the addressable market is much
Yeah.
wider, and if you can offer more competitive rates than the other instis in TradFi, why not? And we are enabling that, not because of leverage, but it's just natively how the entire system works. The system can
Yep.
offer a um, um, better yields. This also includes us getting certified into getting the Sharia certified, where we'll be allowed to target the Islamic funds down the line. So
Okay.
those are all, yeah, those are those are all in progress. And finally, PT distribution. So building products on top of PT. Now, Aave is, we eventually got Aave to build on top of PT, where they can support PT as collateral to borrow funds. That's kind of equivalent to you using your bonds to borrow,
Okay.
to borrow capital, do something else. And yeah, and we're
Cool.
trying to expand the PT utility as much as possible. And so far, over 1.5 billion of PTs have been used as collateral on money markets, and
Wow.
that basically we can think of like more than 3% of the entire
That's crazy.
money market system in crypto is basically Pendle asset.
Very cool.
So more than 3%, and we're trying to grow that as much as possible. And
Congrats.
yeah,
I was
quite a
actually
lot
going
of
to
things in
ask.
the pipeline.
Yeah, congrats on that. I was actually going to ask, you guys must run projections or at least have a conversation about, hey, what could TVL be on Pendle? Like how much of this market could we have? You guys must have those conversations. What do you think that could be? Like if you guys, it sounds like you could bring in a lot of interest. You think you
We
could
do.
see, what do you think you could see?
We have a goal. So just it's funny, it's a metric internally. It's an internal metric, actually. It's not
Yeah.
a public metric. But internal metric, we call it pen, basically Pendle penetration.
Okay.
How much yield in DeFi have is in Pendle?
Got it.
Currently, we are hovering around 2.5% to 3%, which definitely can be much better. And we also haven't targeted many aspects of yield that is in crypto. For example, AMM swap fees. We have supported as a couple of assets, but we haven't really dived deep into
Got
that
it.
aspect of things. We haven't touched funding rates at all. And Boros is supposed to come in and um, um, solve that, where we support funding rates, and most people who are exposed to funding rates should be able to hedge or speculate on funding rates via Boros. And right now we are very stable coin dominant, because right now is the main narrative.
Yep.
But there are a lot of BTC yields that we haven't really
Mm,
tapped into, and
I like that.
many other yield aspects that we haven't really tapped into. We are also not haven't tapped into Solana yields, which we are looking to target as well. So it's kind of like we don't really have a projection, but sort of like the goal is that when a protocol, when there's a new protocol coming up on in crypto, and there's if there's any yield aspect into the protocol, their goal is to get listed on
Mm,
Pendle. Just like
I
how
like
when
it.
you have a token, your end goal should be going to Binance. The good thing is getting listed on Pendle is as simple as just if your asset is 46 ERC 4626, which is a yield bearing asset, standard compliant, should be able to get listed on Pendle in no time.
Right.
So that's sort of like the end goal.
I love it. I love always hearing the internal metrics and these kind of internal goals that aren't necessarily shared in the marketing, but it's super inspiring to me. Thank you for you and your team. I'm constantly blown away by like the amount of talent that you could do anything you wanted and probably do really well at it. And you could go work for probably you could probably go make a lot of money somewhere, but yet so many people are choosing to build really awesome stuff in DeFi because I think again, there's like this glue that it's one of the most awesome spaces I found. It's also one of the dirtiest and scammiest on one side, but like on the other side, I'm just like, there's really smart people building stuff, and you're building whether the markets are bullish and bearish, whether people are freaking out or whether they're making a ton of money. It's like these protocols just keep building, and that really inspires me. Like it, conversations like this keep me plugged into as an investor to just be like, yep, I can't wait to see where the space is
Yeah.
in a decade.
Keep up the optimism.
Yeah, right. So good, man. Finally, one last thing. I like to, as an investor, or I'm sure you guys have a ton of experience investing. If you were given an opportunity to kind of share to maybe a group, couple hundred, couple thousand, who knows, tens of thousands of investors, some some wisdom. We'll call these not first time investors, but people getting into this space. We always remind them to be cautious, like spend freaking 3 months learning before you even deploy any capital, or test with $10, $100. Just have fun, but don't just go learn stuff by testing stuff. What's some advice that that you'd embark maybe at the start of your journey to avoid some losses or do a bit of better returns as an investor? Any words of wisdom?
Um, well, I would kind of say start with the bigger protocols first, and go down the degen curve on how, because it's generally the bigger the protocol, the risk curve is lower, or rather you share risk with more
Hmm.
more people. So if they mess up, the whole industry is gonna mess up anyway. So
Yep.
start with the bigger ones first, just to be safe, and
Like it.
you can learn a lot from just trying out the bigger protocols, and slowly go down the degen curve, and you'll find yourself in the trenches in no time. And you're bound to lose some money, so don't put more than what you're willing to lose. And just appreciate it as part of the journey, call it tuition fee, and don't let it happen again.
Yeah, I love watching people get addicted. Nah, addicted's the wrong word, but I'm using that in a good way. Is like just like you learn one protocol and then it's like, well, you can't sleep at night because you're excited about this and you learn the next thing, and like there
Yeah,
is the rabbit hole does not stop. You can get
exactly.
you can go deep down this space, and I just think even just to get your brain thinking differently, and like not many of us are taught about how money works, and I'm inspired by the idea that even as they study Pendle, they're going to learn stuff about traditional finance that like most people have no idea what that is, and like our world runs on it, which blows my mind that
Oh
we don't
yeah.
understand something like oxygen.
In
It's
in in tra-
crazy.
in, tra- in, tra- in TradFi, rates are the biggest assets
Right.
asset class. Actually, most people are
Yeah.
familiar with stocks and bonds, but rates are actually the highest
Yeah.
in terms of notional amount traded. So, and we're there, and we're still small in crypto. And if we
Yep.
do mirror the performance of TradFi, and we become the de facto market, I think there's a lot of the big pie to capture.
So good. Dan, thank you for your time. I will, you know what? I'm not going to leave links below, but I'm going to leave the official Twitter and the official, DeFi Llama
Sure,
page where you
it's
can check out some
at
info, and
Pendle_Fi.
Pendle_Fi. Dan, thank you and the team so much for what you do.
Cool, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So that wraps up today's conversation. If you have any questions for today's guest on any topic we discussed, or maybe topics we didn't discuss, do leave them in the comments below. If you have a recommendation, or if you'd love to see someone on this show, from a guest, from an expert, from an investor, from maybe someone who's built or is involved in a protocol, do let us know in the comments below. And again, if you enjoyed, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you in the next.